Hey guys, and recently the Nintendo Switch 2 has gotten a lot of controversy surrounding it. To say that it is out of control is an understatement. Things like the price of games have gotten a ton of backlash, as well as a lot of uncertainty surrounding the tariffs, but there has been one other thing that has made this situation even worse, and that is regarding one of the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games. But before we get started, I wanted to mention that I have a goal to hit 30,000 subscribers before the Nintendo Switch 2 launches, so if you enjoy my content, consider subscribing, and if I hit that goal, I will give away a copy of Mario Kart World. But the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games are an interesting concept. I think it's cool that they are adding new content into games, like Kirby and the Forgotten Land with Star-Crossed Worlds. That is really cool, as well as Jamboree TV and Mario Party Jamboree. And they're also doing like performance and like visual updates as well, like 4K, 60 FPS, different things like that, even 120 FPS for Metroid Prime 4, which I think is pretty cool. But there is a pretty big catch regarding a couple of these games at least, because not all of them are really adding new content. Things like Kirby and Mario Party are kind of justified, even though the $80 price tag for everything together is still a really hard pill to swallow for a lot of casual consumers. But with certain games, without that big content boost, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, that is definitely a hard sell, especially since they're $10 more. I know $10 doesn't really seem like that much, but for something that's really only boosting the performance, and they really didn't give that many details about how the performance is being boosted. I mean, I'm sure it looks really good on the Switch too, but from what we've seen so far, it doesn't really look that impressive to me. And then there are like a couple little things that they're adding like the compatibility with the smartphone app, and like adding like little things. I know I said it was kind of a cool idea in my last video, but that really isn't a $10 upgrade in my opinion. That is really just a little add-on. Like so many games, or I mean at least a few games on the Switch 1, had that app thing for free. Like Animal Crossing New Horizons, the Splatoon games, Smash Ultimate, they had apps associated with them that was completely free. They didn't have like some kind of add-on in order to access those apps. So I think that's just kind of weird that they're doing that. I don't really think these updates really warranted that $10 price tag. But what makes this situation even worse, I mean it wasn't like that terrible already. $10 is just kind of but it wasn't that bad. But what makes this situation actually egregious is the fact that they are not including the DLC with Breath of the Wild. Why? Why? The game is 8 years old. Like, that DLC really isn't too much to ask for. And the thing is, this makes the whole package of Breath of the Wild on the Switch 2 $90. So, if you want to play this game to its fullest on the Switch 2, you're gonna have to pay nearly $100, nearly $100 for a nearly decade-old game. That is actually egregious. Like that, I would say that's even more egregious than Mario Kart being $80. And I mean, like the thing is, at least with Mario Kart, it's a brand new game. Like, at least it's a new experience. I'm not defending it. I still think it's really bad that it's being sold for $80. But Breath of the Wild, with the whole package being even more expensive, is just on a whole other level of greediness to me. That is almost just un-Nintendo-like. That is like approaching like Sony and Ubisoft levels of craziness there. Like that is just actually kind of insane. And I think this kind of really goes to show how bad Nintendo's like stance is on Switch 1 games remaining at $60, because that really is the root cause of all of this. Switch 2 edition games being $70 to $80 is because Nintendo still treats Switch 1 games as $60 games, even going into the Switch 2 era. Like, that is still, like, just kind of crazy. Like, that they aren't getting any sort of price drop. Because Switch 1 games going into the Switch 2 era are gonna be kind of old, I would say. I mean, the Switch 2 edition ones are getting upgrades, but those upgrades really shouldn't cost that much. Like, these Switch 2, or these Nintendo Switch 1 games, compared to the Switch 2 games, are essentially 2 generations behind. Like, that is technically like Xbox Series S compared to Xbox 360 games. Technically, like, 1.5 the 2 generations there, like, between the gap of these games. Since the Switch 1 was essentially kind of comparable to the Wii U, just maybe a little more powerful than the Wii U, but the Switch 2 is actually more of a substantial gap in terms of, like, an upgrade. So that definitely makes the Switch 1 games just kind of old and even more outdated. I mean, sure, they are excellent games. I mean, even though the graphics aren't the best and may not be as good as, like, Switch 2 games, and are still, like, really good games, that doesn't really mean that they should still be sold as full-priced games going into the Switch 2 era. But yeah, that, like, just the fact that, like, just Breath of the Wild being that much is kind of crazy. I think it also kind of shows how weirdly Nintendo treats Zelda sometimes. Like, Skyward Sword HD was a full $60, while not being a big upgrade from the Wii version at all. And it really that is one example of how Nintendo kind of treats Zelda games. It kind of seems like Nintendo treats Zelda games with a certain level of prestige, where they want to kind of charge more for the games. Like, they did that with Tears of the Kingdom as well. Like, before the whole Switch 2 pricing fiasco, that was the first time they sold a game for more than $60, and that caused quite a lot of backlash. So it seems like a lot of these weird decisions that Nintendo does is often associated with Zelda. I think Zelda is, like, one way that Nintendo kind of feels that they can milk the consumers. Because, I don't know, it's just the prestige that Nintendo kind of treats with Zelda kind of allows them to try to get away with these kind of egregious business practices whenever they do something with Zelda. It's always Zelda for some reason. I mean, yeah, we did get Mario Kart doing something weird as well, but it's always Zelda doing a really weird decision sometimes. But yeah, this is just a really weird thing that Nintendo is doing on top of all of the other craziness in terms of pricing for the Nintendo Switch 2. I really hope Nintendo hears the backlash to this and actually does something about it between Mario Kart as well as some of the Switch 2 editions. I mean, maybe not all the Switch 2 editions, at least some of them are getting, like, content updates and things. But for the ones that aren't, they really shouldn't be more expensive, or at least they should be much cheaper than they actually are. Like, I mean, I think, like, for the ones that really only have, like, performance and visual updates, those should really only be, like, $5 max, I would say. I mean, I could understand if they're putting, like, a little bit of effort into it, like maybe with some texture work and different things, are trying to get the game to run better, then yeah, maybe you could have, like, a little bit of, like, a price there, but, like, just $10 or $20 is just kind of crazy if they're not adding any extra content. And not including DLC is just even more egregious. Like, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, on the, like, when the Switch first launched, that was $60 and included all of the DLC from the Wii U version. So there is no reason why the Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild shouldn't be including the DLC. So, yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky!